Away from education, Nigeria and the Republic of Benin have endorsed a framework for enhanced economic cooperation to boost bilateral trade and deepen regional integration. Formalized during a high-level meeting following the West Africa Economic Summit 2025, the agreement focuses on 4 pillars: trade in goods, trade in services, and private sector engagement, as well as customs procedures and legal and institutional coordination. Led by Nigerian and Beninese ministers, the initiative aligns with ECOWAS, the AfCFTA, and WTO goals as the World Trade Organization goals. A detailed Memorandum of Understanding is expected by the first quarter of 2026. Now, officials say the deal will erase or ease trade barriers, promote investment, and support long-term economic growth across both countries. Joining us now on the news for more insight is Nnaemeka Obiaraeri. For more, he is a certified financial engineer and also an investment banking executive. Joining us live from Lagos. Mr. Nnaemeka, it's good to have you join us. Better Dr. Obiaraeri. Let's start, shall we? What are the expected short and long-term economic benefits from this framework by both countries?
The Republic, just like Donald Trump will always say that Canada should be the 51st state in the U.S., Benin Republic should actually be the 37 states in Nigeria plus Abuja. There is no Benin Republic economy without Nigeria. And we've always made this case. The Benin Republic economy actually thrives 99% based on economic activities mostly flowing out of Nigeria. If you look at Benin Republic ports, 60–70% of what comes into that port finds its way into every other part of Nigeria. And it's because of the efficiency, the excellence, and the reduced cost of tariffs and everything within those ports. We've always made the case for Nigeria to become a transshipment hub, where the rest of West Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa will depend on Nigeria for transshipment of goods and services coming in from Europe, coming in from Asia. Nigeria can actually be like Rotterdam. If you look at Singapore economy is actually driven mainly by services, providing a transshipment hub between continents. That is why Singapore, as small as Alimosho, landmass of 721 square meters, has a bigger economy than that of Nigeria, almost ×2, and get almost about $27 billion from their blue economy, which will actually double. So it's a good thing, and I think for us to actually benefit, not just with Benin Republic, creating linkages with the rest of Africa, Sub-Saharan African countries under the ACFTA framework, we need to improve on our efficiencies, we need to improve on our port excellence and all the rest of it. I don't know why in Nigeria today, 80% of what we need to develop this economy, we cannot produce them in terms of equipment, in terms of machineries. I don't know why customs tariffs of 14 trillion should be our focus. Maybe we can actually reduce those tariffs to 5%, 10%, Doctor, make our our ports as efficient as what you see in Rotterdam. Doctor, make it as efficient as what you have in
Singapore. Let's settle on those efficiencies, shall we? Because I don't want you to go too far. When we look at the framework in its entirety, you just talked about 2 things, the customs inefficiencies and the trade challenges, the persistent trade challenges. So how would it address it very specifically so we can get to the fine nitty-gritty of it?
How we can address it, we just need to overhaul the whole system. And I appreciate the federal government.
Does the framework allow for that?
It wasn't that explicit and detailed. And the framework also does not impact on our own internal workings. The framework of the relationship does not affect our own internal efficiency. We need to, for us to benefit from such bilateral relationship and everything, even with the rest of South African market, 100 million man market, we need to improve our internal efficiencies and remove some of our internal contradictions.
Right. As we're talking about internal, issues here, What then, you just talked about the opportunities that this would lie, but only if we overhaul the entire systems, right? The opportunities that it presents us, let's talk about the opportunities it presents for the private sector when it comes to participation and cross-border investment. But most importantly, you talked about efficiency of this when it comes to both countries. What would they do to ensure efficiency monitoring and implementation of this framework to see its success?
Like I've always said, for us to be very efficient, we need to remove some of the internal bottlenecks we've created. I don't see reason why we will have 18 agencies at the entry or exit port in Nigeria. We need to remove all those bottlenecks and create only one agency that will be in charge of all these things. We need to also reduce the cost of doing business in Nigeria. It takes almost about $200,000 to bet a mega vessel of about 200,000 gross tonnage in Nigeria, whereas in Ghana it takes about $80,000. So we must be very, very efficient. Everything is not about taxing people to death. We must put in place activities, programs, and policies that attracts productivity and boost productivity here in Nigeria. Like I've always said, Nigeria is the big brother. If we resolve our internal contradictions, inefficiency, and corruption, we can actually take over the whole Sub-Saharan African market. If you look at trade between African countries today, is about 3% compared to trade between African countries and the rest of Europe and America. And I've said it again, Africa imports over $50 billion food commodities, projected to be about $140 billion over the next 10 years. Nigeria can actually position itself to become the food supplier of Africa. We need to also position ourselves. I've always advocated that we should have a standard gateway network that crisscrosses from Nigeria all the way to Senegal, spearheaded by Nigeria. But for us to benefit, not lose out, we must sort out our internal contradiction, remove the corruption and inefficiencies within our system.
Could this agreement serve as a model for deeper bilateral trade cooperation across West Africa? I mean, you just said that it's not so detailed in terms of the framework and what the nitty-gritty will be, but can it serve as a model?
There is nothing additional, there's nothing too deeper. Like I would say, there's nothing deeper in this that are not contained in the AfCFTA framework. We have a bigger framework, the AfCFTA framework, that allows for seamless business and operations and relationship between business and countries and individuals across the Sub-Saharan African space. So this framework will not, I don't see it adding any additional value for economic cooperation, either state to state or individuals or private companies.
Dr. Obiaraeri, I must say thank you for taking out the time to join us. Nnaemeka Obiaraeri, he's a certified financial engineer and investment banking executive, giving us a bit of insight following the bilateral framework that is now going to be signed very soon by the Nigerian and Beninese ministers. Once again, thank you so much.